Wedding photographers of Reddit, what was your "they're not gonna last long" moment? Bride looked visibly miserable the entire ceremony. While photographing the men's "getting ready" portion, the groom repeatedly kept joking about killing himself. During the toast, the bride ran off to the bathroom for about 30 minutes and came back wiping her tears with her eyes red and puffy. Neither of them had any chemistry at all. It made no sense why they were together to me. That was the last wedding I shot. In another life, I worked catering shifts. Loads of Saturday weddings. I'll never forget the best man's toast of the groom. It was a shameless roast. He spoke openly about the groom's willingness to shag anything when he's drunk. He then went on and on about the groom's deadly gambling habit and his short fuse when he doesn't win. He asked the stone-faced groom, "How many thousands of dollars in golf clubs have you destroyed or lost in countless ponds?" Nobody was laughing. The bride had tears in her eyes and the groom's parents sat in stunned silence. While shooting video, I attached a microphone to the groom for audio and proceeded to prepare for the ceremony. Just as I was about to adjust my audio settings, the groom stepped into another room with a friend. As I put on my headphones, I overheard the groom confiding in his friend, describing the wedding as a wedding of convenience, and reassuring them not to be concerned about what would happen in their relationship. Went to a wedding during college to my friends that got married who graduated 2 years prior to me. They had a beautiful wedding on a boat off the Keys, and as the best man gave his speech, he was really drunk by this point. Just shouted out, "You don't deserve her. You literally got a blow job from a stripper. No, make that 2 strippers at your bachelor party. Peace out." He dropped the mic and tried to do a dramatic exit, but by this point we were all stuck on this boat in the middle of the ocean. It took an hour to get back to port, and it was the most awful and awkward hour of our lives for everyone on that boat. Said this before. Third wedding and the best man, the groom's brother, starts his speech. "Well, welcome back everyone. Good to see some new faces and some old ones. I've been an actual wedding family photographer in my hometown for 15 years and legit never had a wedding where I picked something going wrong. Sure, some couples have shown their true colors after the big day, but no big indicators at the wedding. Running into old couples with new partners in the grocery store or wherever is super awkward. But the kicker was an old bride asking to remove the photos of her and her ex from my website because he was about to be jailed for arson and she didn't want to be linked to him. Yikes. I think my first clue was when the bride showed up with some bad makeup, clearly trying to cover her black eye, while most of the rest of the family seemed far more into the free food and booze than the wedding itself. Oh yeah, never paid me either. Classy people. When the groom looked at her like she was the love of his life, and she treated the day like her prom and ignored him. I think they lasted 6 months. Groom didn't want to participate in any wedding pictures after the ceremony. I believe he was more interested in drinking beers with his buddies. I don't think they lasted a year. Oh man. I was a wedding photographer for about 5 years. I get being awkward on camera and not wanting to do any public PDA. I'm very awkward myself. But when prompting couples for fun poses like whispering obscenities in each other's ear for a laughing shot, nuzzling close together, etc., most couples eventually let their guard down and enjoyed holding each other. It was so sweet. A few times though, I had couples that visibly didn't want to be near each other at all. Once the shot was done, they went back to standing a foot apart. They would complain about each other and make fun of each other in front of me. It always left me with a bad feeling in my gut, and most of the time the marriage didn't last long. When I worked as a wedding planner for a hotel chain, the groom had found out his bride was having an affair with her brother's best mate. The bride's mother knew about it, but insisted on the wedding and paid a fortune. The groom wasn't drinking much and at the speeches stood up and revealed he knew and said he was getting an annulment. He then took his best man on his honeymoon. The honeymoon the bride's parents had paid for. The engagement session. The couple was in from out of town because she had just taken the bar exam to become a lawyer. At the end of the session, I gave them a prompt to share with each other what they were proud of each other for. He couldn't think of a single thing. Somehow they still got married, complete with the groom drinking 11 IPAs plus several shots before the ceremony. Mother of the bride so drunk for family photos she pretended to strip. And the groom and all the groomsmen wearing camo hats with neon orange letters that said, "Titties." And beer. For the entire wedding day. Including sunset couples photos where he refused to do anything I suggested. Nearly spat you right on my feet. Kept farting on purpose. And loudly complained about how all he wanted was to go have sex. I was a bridesmaid in a wedding where the bridal couple left the reception and as if on cue all the bridesmaids started ugly crying. We'd all tried to talk the bride out of going through with marrying the demeaning, insecure boss and couldn't hold back any longer. The bride's family came over to see what was wrong and just sadly nodded at us. It's been 35 years and they are still locked in the most emotionally abusive relationship I've ever seen. So much potential happiness wasted. I'm a wedding photographer. Most of my couples are super awesome. Occasionally couples are grumpy with each other during photos and it's not a great look. But honestly, I like to give them the benefit of the doubt. Your wedding day should be a happy day. But sometimes it's just stressful. Stress can get to people and make them act in a way they normally wouldn't. I think the worst moment I witnessed was when a couple clearly didn't know each other very well. The guy made a comment about not knowing she had OCD during photos and her mom whispered behind me, "You have no idea." I have no idea if they're still together. I met with potential clients to go over the details of the wedding and to see if we would be a good fit to work together. I tried to schedule something at a cafe, but they insisted on me coming to their house. When I arrived, there was a 5-gallon Home Depot bucket of dirty diapers on the front porch. I had a feeling this wasn't going to go well. A young kid, probably 7 or so, answered the door. All I could see and hear were children running around everywhere. The soon-to-be husband was sitting on his bed that was in the living room watching TV and the bride was in the kitchen with 2 kids on either hip. She told me to sit at the kitchen table to go over the wedding details. She shouted at her fiancé to come and join the meeting where he didn't acknowledge that I was there to talk about shooting their wedding. The bride was annoyed, then asked if I saw the bucket full of dirty diapers on the porch. I said that I had. And she said her fiancé has so many kids with other women that is the only place to keep them so they don't stink up the house. I did not take the job. I always wondered what happened to that couple. I used to be a wedding photographer in Las Vegas at several hotels and downtown wedding chapels. I've got so many of these stories. Here's a fun one. Monday I get booked to shoot the wedding. Wednesday hotel calls me to cancel because the bride backed out. Thursday hotel calls to rebook me because wedding is back on. Same groom but different bride. Friday I shoot the wedding with the new bride about 18 or 19 years old. Groom was early 20s. And it's clear they barely know each other. Bride just kept saying, "This is so crazy. I can't believe I'm doing this." Neither could I. No, it wasn't a mail-order bride. Here's a sad one. Older couple. I'd guess in their 40s, 50s. The limo driver calls and tips me off that the bride is being a problem. She arrives and is extremely rude to everyone on the staff while the groom is being apologetic and super nice. The ceremony starts and she fast walks down the aisle, doesn't wait for the groom. The groom sheepishly catches up at the altar. When it's her time to say, "I do," she says, "Yay whatever," in a bitchy annoyed tone. The groom says, "I do." You could cut the tension in the room with the knife. The minister keeps things in track and finishes the ceremony and we get to the kiss. Instead of kissing the groom, she turns her face and gives him her cheek. She then fast walks back down the aisle, signs the paperwork and left. The groom was in tears. Never saw them again, and I'm sure it didn't last. Here's another. I would guess the bride was in her 70s and the groom was in his early 20s. One side of the chapel was all walkers and oxygen tanks while the other was drunk 20-somethings. Pretty sure it was a money grab, but it was notable because normally the genders are reversed on these kind of weddings. Another fun one. Wedding was at the top of the Stratosphere Tower. The couple shows up and the bride is a new age crystal type, very, let's say, spiritual, and the groom straight up looks like a 1849 gold miner. Rope belt, floppy hat, 3 teeth, the whole thing. The bride tells me there would be spirits and angels in the photos, and the reason they got married at the Stratosphere is because it's the closest place to heaven that they could get married. They were so weird about it and said so many times that they wanted to be with God and go to heaven, that the hotel had the bomb dog sniff them before getting on the elevator to go to the top. We lie and tell them it's standard practice to have the dogs sniff everyone. Wedding happens and they start chanting nonsense words, speaking in tongues, then proceed to have the grossest makeout session I've ever seen. Turns out they met that week in awe. Wedding photographer from India here. 1. Bride's mom dissed non-stop about the groom to a couple of our photographers. She believed that her daughter is too beautiful for the guy they promised her hand to, and how she'd rather have him die sooner than seeing him with her daughter post the wedding. 2. Bride and the groom had the first dinner separately because the bride wasn't just in the mood to have their reception dinner together. 3. This is one as the final nail in the coffin post the wedding. When we were about to photograph portraits of the couple, the groom walked up to us saying that he's too tired from the wedding, so it'd be better if we could use the photos from the previous weddings we shot and morph his face onto those, and walked away. They divorced 3 months later. P. Over coffee. At our initial "do they want to hire me" meeting, they argued bitterly the entire time, and eventually, the groom just sat back in his chair with his arms crossed and wouldn't speak to either of us. I went home and the next day emailed them the old "something suddenly came up," and that my schedule had unfortunately changed. Red flags aren't just for the people in the relationship. Vendors. See them and heed them. Location flag. Asked the groom in a recorded interview why he asked her to marry him, and he said, "The pressure to get married." They lasted less than 2 months. Hadn't even finished the video and they were over. The groom didn't want to put on his suit to take portraits, even after the bride insisted, because it's uncomfortable and hot. Different wedding. Saw the groom down an entire bottle of wine in one go when he finally had a minute to himself. I took the picture thinking it was just going to be a goofy moment, until later on while I was editing pictures, I realized what I was seeing. Oh wait, another one. The bride was 30 minutes late. When I was in the room with the bride while she was getting ready, she told bridesmaids how her sister drove her all around town because she couldn't make up her mind about if she really wanted to get married.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Haircast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.